Hello, everyone, and welcome to Let's Talk World talk show presented by ClickAway Creators. Today, we have Mr. Abhishek Kanoi with us. Abhishek is a fellow member of the Institute of Company Secretaries of India. He is also an associate member of the Chartered Institute for Securities and Investments, United Kingdom, and also holds a bachelor's degree in law and bachelor's degree in commerce with honors. In accounts, he is rich and diverse in-house corporate experience of over 16 years in corporate legal and commercial space across various industries such as law firms, hospitality, manufacturing, automotive, media and entertainment, and non-banking financial institutions with special reference to emergence technology and coverage. His wide array of specialization includes legal affairs, corporate secretarial, IPO and listing, regulatory compliances, RBI, FEMA matters, merger and acquisitions, listing compliance, venture capital investments, cross-border domestic transactions, intellectual property rights, copyrights, media and entertainment laws. He has earned the respect of the industry in conducting and judging as Chief Compliance Innovator for the Year by UBS Forum in the year 2019 and Young Achiever of the Year by Legal Era in the year 2021. He has helped to develop a new global legal and governance firm framework for the company while ensuring its overseas expansion is brought into line with the centralized approach. As a senior member of leadership platform at PDS, Mr. Kanoi regularly works with senior management as well as respected strategy voices. So without any further ado, let's dive into it and let's meet the man himself. Hello, Abhishek. Thank you for joining us. And how are you doing today?
Yeah, hi. Thank you so much, and I'm very good. I hope you are doing well. And thank you so much, Let's Talk World, for inviting me and giving this opportunity and having reposing a trust on me for being a part of this prestigious event. I'm very excited to meet all of you next year in Dubai in 2022 with a fresh kind of energy and new world after the COVID pandemic. So people's were, working from home, having a different sets of mind. So it would be lovely to meet all the professionals across the globe and to share their knowledge and experience, and which also help me out in terms of, improving, and building up my knowledge-based platform.
Absolutely. It is going to be an opportunity for all of us. And thank you so much for being on the show today. At the same time, I'd like to talk about the Let's Talk World Conference that's going to take place in Dubai 2022. And you also talked about the same conference. So I'm sure it is going to be a great opportunity for a lot of legal professionals after pandemic to come together and see their counterparts working in different countries, because we are expecting audience from more than 30 countries this time to be
Right.
participating at the conference.
Mhm.
All right,
Great.
so Abhishek, without any further ado, let's jump into it because I'm sure the audience is here and they really want to know more about yourself. So let's talk about, and let me give you a complex question at the very first go. So let's talk about a complex legal issue that you worked on and please describe the complexity and tell us how you approached it.
Okay. So, I'm presently working with PDS Multinational Fashions Limited as a general counsel and company secretary. First, let me give you a brief background about my organization and what I'm into, and therefore that would be also give us a kind of a clear, element in terms of understanding the complexities and what I have involved into. So PDS Multinational Group is a global organization into a fashion and apparel business. We design, develop, manufacture, source, and supply ready-made garments and apparels and consumer products for various retailers across the globe. We are catering over plus 190 retailers and brands globally, providing end-to-end solution right from the procurement to design to delivery, with every process undertaken keeping sustainability at the core. We have a global presence in more than 22 countries with over 50 offices globally and more than 3,000 employees and companies in the year December 2020. And at the time of joining, I had been given a few important assignments, which is more of a complex in nature. The one of the most important was with regard to the implementation of a employee stock option scheme for the benefit of the employees, not of the holding company but of the subsidiaries. We are having more than 90 subsidiaries outside India, so it is more one of the most challenging tasks to first design and to first understand the idea behind what exactly what is the reason of getting out this stock option scheme for the employee, and therefore later on going ahead with the conceptualization stage, then drafting of the scheme, etc. So ultimately with the COVID pandemic, with the employees being, there's a lot of salary cost cutting, etc., being happened, and with a view to and these employees are being in the system from last 10 years, 15 years, 5 years, 6 years, and they have been done a tremendous efforts for the growth of the organization at large. Even during pandemic also our revenue was quite sustainable. The top line was not gone beyond the expected what we have anticipated. So therefore this all the people at PDS had done a tremendous effort during the pandemic, and we worked all as a team and the family. Therefore, with the view to achieve the kind of create a value creation incentive scheme for the employees, we got into decided to implement the soft stock option scheme, which include the implementation scheme for the employee of the holding company as well as subsidiaries outside India, including Bangladesh, Hong Kong, Pakistan, uh, uh, US, UK, China, etc., of more than 150, 160 employees. Initially we start with the 150, 160 employees, and later on we want to expand it to the other sets of the employees as well. So this involves a huge task in terms of drafting of the scheme, then understanding the implication of tax structure in various jurisdiction, and there is a kind of restriction of or under the RBI to grant a stock option scheme to the employees of Bangladesh, Hong Kong, China, and Pakistan. So you cannot grant a stock option to them. So we need to evaluate, how to incentivize them. So we came up with a new option of phantom stock option. So then we got into a strategy, understanding the whole process and drafting of the scheme, approval with the board and the shareholders, and implementation of thereof. So this, and also valuation under the Black-Scholes scheme, etc. So this involved a huge task, and it was very challenging for us to implement it. And this was the first time we are doing at PDS. So yeah, this is one of the most complex assignment that we had handled at PDS, and it was a collaborative team effort. It's all from the right from the finance side, the investor relations side, and all the business teams had collaboratively and helped and participated in getting this implemented. So this
Oh,
is one of
wow.
the yeah. So this is one of the most uh, one of the most complex assignment that initially I handled along with the other team members. The other one was with respect to the implementation of a board governance framework for the listed company in India and for the across 90 subsidiaries across the globe, to ensure the these while we are into an expansion stage in the overseas, and to the objective was to have a centralized approach, also to have the POEM compliances, so place of effective management compliances. So we need to ensure that these two are brought into the taken into a due respect, and to have a centralized control from the one central team instead of scattered over across the globe with with the compliances in the hands of multiple people, so that there is no such visibility and control per se. So therefore, to have to ensure that there is a proper compliances across all the company subsidiaries across the globe, we then implemented a board governance framework to have this kind of a centralized approach. This entire exercise was including they would define the roles and responsibilities of the directors, including the accountability of the respective business heads and the CFOs of the respective business verticals. It also outlined the risk mitigation framework, post restructuring of the board, then what is the responsibility of the CFO, chief operating officer, company secretaries, internal audit, etc. So all these being properly defined and having a regular board meetings, of these companies and to and the action taken later thereof later. So the objective is that the idea is to not to form the company for the sake of forming it, but to also ensure that we have a strong governance framework, taking into consideration the kind of the regulatory is being become so stringent, and we also want to have a kind of always want to ensure that we have a proper governance compliant company globally. And therefore, with this intent, we want to structure it in a more proper way. Therefore, we would have taken this step, which was also again a very tedious task, because first of all, understanding the law of a different country, how that works out. India, we have a different Companies Act. Mauritius, we have a different Companies Act. Hong Kong, we have a different Companies Act. UK, we have a different Companies Act. US, we have a different company. So alignment in accordance with the laws of land, and then create a kind of a framework and implementation was very, very important. So we cannot go anything beyond the laws of the land. So we need to work around within the laws of the land, and to find out the most appropriate solution, which is also not going to defeat the running of the business at large, because we don't want to create any such thing. Keeping the within the governance framework, the business heads and the rest of the respective business vertical should not feel that this is going to be a roadblock for them running the business. So that also need to be keep in mind. So it is from the combination of both the aspects. So this is more about the complexities that I have been worked with, and we are working more into a lot of strategies going on in terms of merger and acquisitions, than the private equity, etc. So these are all will come at a later stage, as long as we progress in the organization. And there are one of the few litigation matters. I handled one UK settlement disputes, which was happened due to the COVID disruptions on the supply chain side. So the disputed amount was more than $3 to $4 million, and it was only in the verge of the bad debt. So I saved that bad debt in terms of entering into a settlement with the one of our vendor suppliers. And this was also one of the great experience in terms of dealing with the UK law, and dealing with the complexities involved. And it was more of an independent in nature, so that was another one of the complex assignment that I'd handled.
That's amazing. Thank you so much for sharing those quick, examples with us of some of the most complex legal situations or projects that you have worked upon. I think my favorite one was the first one when you talked about the 9 different subsidiaries that you guys have, and kind of 90 different subsidiaries that you guys have, and working with different compliances, different laws of different lands. I think that's and the most important thing was that it came at a very complex time during the pandemic. Then when you had to do it,
yeah, because most of the time the lawyers feel that, with my experience, with no complaints about any other professionals, but sometimes this is not my domain. I don't know the law of this country. We need to face the other lawyers. We need to look up. We need to link the law form of the other countries, etc. And therefore it becomes very difficult, and it's become very difficult for them to understand the law, and they come up with the option that we need to engage the law form of the other country to understand it. My idea is completely different. I feel that irrespective either way, irrespective, understand the law, you don't know the law, you can at least put an effort to know it.
yeah.
Being the group general counsel of the company, and the regulatory and compliance, if I don't understand the law of that country, I cannot contribute. It's
True.
having the just a designation would not solve the purpose. You need to put an extra effort to know it, and that will always give you an X factor. And that gives you more confidence that you can sit at you can go to the any parts of the world, and can be respective. You don't know the law of that country, but you can contribute. That is how you can accelerate yourself.
No, absolutely. I completely agree with you. And, you are on the other side of the table, because, when we look at the legal world, legal fraternity overall, legal in-house counsel are on the other side of the table. The other legal matters, like, for example, law firms and independent counsel, are on a different side of the table. So when you look at things from that side of the table, let me just, highlight a couple of things for our audience as well. That in your position, Abhishek, and correct me if I'm wrong, in your position, when you are making sure that the compliances of a company or of a firm at global level, stays within the boundaries of laws, and make sure that whatever the policies and implementations that we are doing are happening in favor of employees, in favor of the company, but in within the boundaries of law, it is not an easy thing. And that's exactly what you are trying to say, that understanding different laws of different lands and making sure that business profitability is intact, employees are happy, and it is making justice to each and everyone inside the company and outside the company as well. So that's definitely a commendable job that you're doing. Thank you so much, Abhishek, for sharing those great insights with
Thank
us
you.
on that particular first question. I'd like to quickly move on to the next one, and the next one talks about the pandemic once again. So and this is more towards the courts going, towards the remote proceedings and the availabilities. Do you think this is sustainable? And is this a possible way to increase access to justice, in your opinion?
Well, in my opinion, yes, remote proceeding enable and smooth, and it makes the court proceeding systems more structured and convenient. The pandemic saw a wave, of work from home, which turned out to be extremely productive for different professionals across the globe. And the same should be followed in the long run. Lawyers sitting at one place may attend the hearings, and argue the matter at multiple courts across various cities and countries, without any kind of a physical movement. So it again saves the cost and time of the lawyer as well as the client. This often, materializes in a more relaxed dress code, domestic backdrop, some background noises or interruption, etc. So I think that was this is invention of a virtual courtroom during the pandemic is also one of the, again, a new initiative been taken, and this has been experimented successfully, in terms of accessing to the justice at times. So during pandemic, at an unparalleled speed, many courts around the world have started transitioning into an online hearings, and many of them for the first time, like in India. The immediate challenge faced by justice during the pandemic was of the availability of the justice, you know adjudication of those cases that are urgent and cannot be substandard. So therefore technological means have been played a very crucial role during the pandemic, especially in the legal work, in particular, while creation of this online courts. So of course, I means, I believe that was been one of the commendable efforts being taken by the legal system in India. In parallel, to move towards virtual courtrooms and make it more sustainable, the judicial system also, across various countries have taken the steps to adopt effective electronic storage systems, to file the information about cases, e-filings, in order to reduce the paper dependence and waste, and but also to ensure timely presentation, or of an access to documents related to the case matters. And nowadays, as you are aware, that there are various websites where the lawyer can access the information easily, in terms of finding out the listing of the matters, including mentioning of the courtrooms, name of the judge, timing, listing, etc. And this has really made the life so easy for the lawyer as compared to the conventional method followed earlier. Earlier, a lawyer used to send their employees, to the court to figure out when the matter is listed for hearing and the location of the courtroom. Now everything becomes so easy, and everyone, it saves a lot of time and money. Again, the concept of your hybrid hearing, which is also another byproduct of the COVID-19.
Yeah.
So it is all facilitated, to have access to justice during the pandemic. I can understand there are, the most important thing that which I feel in terms of, the infrastructure, which is very important, and that needs still a lot of attention, and the government should take more initiative to have a kind of a more advanced and more, dynamic infrastructure, especially when you are having this kind of a virtual courtroom, so that there could be a stability of the internet facility, etc. So that is something which is very important, in terms of having this kind of this kind of facility while you are running the court with the virtual platform. There is, few lawyers that feel that a permanent future, kind of a feeling, because that lead to the, death of the physical courts. So but yes, yeah, physical courts are having a different kind of aura. It makes you give you a lot of other kind of facility in terms of access to the lot of from the logistic perspective, I would rather say. But again, the virtual courtrooms become now more convenient for everyone, and I think I feel it is not so challenging, with the people having a technological know-how and technological knowledge in terms using the various kind of gadgets and etc. I don't think that would be a more difficult. So for me, the only thing that we should look at from the perspective of that, as I mentioned, with regard to the infrastructure facility, and that a lot of technical glitches may affect the quality and the fluidity of the defense of even of the most talented and the most senior overall advocates are fighting the cases, and due to the image audio time lags, loss of connection by some of the participants, and overall audio video experience that may worse the case while you are having a physical trial. Another important factor which may the lawyer feel of the downplay of the the absence of the body language while you are having a virtual hearing, so that also play a great downplay in terms of strengthening the one's case. So for me, according to me, yes, access to justice in terms of having the virtual platform is, yes, it's increasing, and the government should also take more initiative for having such kind of infrastructure initiative in case of not only with the restricted metro cities but beyond the metro cities, in the rural areas, in the small cities, across various states in India, wherein there is a people are struggling from having attending to those attending through the virtual platform, and also kind of create a kind of a knowledge awareness, giving more effective training to the kind of to the lawyer, to staff, lawyer and the client, and the manner of attending the hearing. I mean, and also either by the way of kind of various other platforms like newspaper publications, you can use it. The judicial system can use the various platform to promote this virtual means by various kind of a platform, social media, newspaper, etc., so that people can get to aware of this kind of knowledge, and then this could help them to help them to get it more clarity, and give them more kind of comfort in terms of attending the hearing through a virtual platform. So according to me, yes, it is absolutely possible.
Yeah, and I think it has definitely increased, the availability of justice to overall humanity. Yes, you're absolutely right. Because it started at a very diverse stage. I mean, it started when we were really suffering with pandemic, with COVID, and it was the need of the hour to kind of keep the things running and make sure that people are still available and people are still able to get the justice, and they're still working on the judicial system. It was the need of the hour, but maybe we were not fully prepared. But now we have time and we have understood how it really works, so we can be better prepared next time, and probably we can invest into infrastructure to make it even better for the
Yeah,
next time.
because even you see there are a lot of cases with regard to the bail, sometimes anti-sabotage bails, etc. There are a lot of cases which cannot be which you can't wait till the physical courts get opened, and there are cases with regard to, and in during pandemic there are a lot of cases arising with regard to corporate frauds, with regard to the lease disputes, etc. So all these matters are such a matter which cannot be wait and suspended for a long time, and therefore you need to come up with some certain solutions in terms of how to deal with it. And I'm very thankful to the Supreme Court and the judicial system in India under the, and so they had seriously taken up this matter, and then done the commendable job. And it is also being helpful for the lot of lawyers in India who were earlier not aware of such kind of platforms, and now it become very easy for them. And like it's very simple. It's very simple. Like we are sitting in the office attending the meeting through a various kind of a video audio video platforms like Zoom, like Microsoft Team, etc. So similar, it's very similar, like attending the virtual courtroom. It's not that tough, and it become like other pandemic has brought to the forefront the importance of legal empowerment approaches, which are very essential to enable ordinary people to use the law to have the voice in the system as a whole and find a kind of a concrete solution to their pressing justice problems. So I think absolutely yes.
All right, amazing. Thank you so much for sharing those great insights. I'd like to quickly jump on to the last question of the session today, because I wanted to talk about the technologies, but I think you've already covered them while answering this question. So probably we can quickly jump on to the last question. This talks about money. So Abhishek, time is money in any profession, and in legal, it's most of all. We want to know, how do you ensure to make the best of your time as a lawyer?
See, as a lawyer, you need to ensure how to make best of use of your time. Is to make a balance between your personal and professional life. We as a lawyer sometimes get so caught up with our work, and we don't get a time to follow any of our hobbies also. Therefore, we need to ensure a healthy relationship with our profession, and it becomes also important to take give time to your hobbies as well. The pandemic forcing attorneys to work remotely actually exposed on an opportunity, and to have a better work-life balance. Attorneys, lawyers from are known for having high stress, high demand careers that come with long hours in the office. But cutting out the commuting time of work between the home and office and having the ease of working out of home made it very clear, and attorneys can, the lawyers can better balance their careers and with their personal lives. So also, at times, uh, with the kind of increasing complexities in the corporate world, and also not internal but external also, sometimes it become very difficult for the lawyers to, manage the time, and we need to be always on the, always on the toes, to serve the client and to understand lot of efforts for research, studying, etc., to implement those things in, in the organization at large. So for us, it is very important for all the lawyers, including me. I'm not an exception. And so it is for us to very important to keep, balance between the personal and professional life. Health is all, as you say, health is well. So if you keep running after the money, and you will not take care of your health, that is also not right, because if your health is not good and if you're not in a proper state of mind, you will not able to contribute quality wise, and therefore it is very important for each and every of our professionals to maintain that kind of balance. Follow your hobbies, do what you like. If you want to, if you like traveling, go for travel. If you like driving, go for driving, to go for a drive, or whatever makes you feel good, you should also should follow that as well. So which is also give you a lot of energy, it can give you a lot of kind of a positive attitude to, and it also give you kind of a fresh kind of a vibes. And once you come next day to the office or meeting clients, it is always give you that kind of a confidence. Otherwise, people at the longer stage will start losing confidence. Their body language should go on a downplay side, and that is not a sign of a good profession.
All right. Thank you so much, Abhishek, for helping us understand about managing your time and how do you really create a right balance between personal and professional lives, which is very much important. As lawyers, this is for our viewers. As lawyers, I think time is money, but at the same time, expertise is also very important, and that comes with more and more work that you do. Correct me if I'm wrong, Abhishek. That more and
Yeah,
more work that you do,
absolutely. It is very important for each one of us to keep ourselves updated, because as a lawyer, you are the one of the guardian gatekeeper of the organization of your client, and one small wrong decision can create a biggest blunder, which is not, you will not get a time to regret about that part. So therefore it is very important for all of us, including the young buddies lawyers, or the new generations, or the, the everyone, including me. I'm also keep learning. I'm learning from my juniors at times. They also come and tell me, so this Abhishek, this is could be this is not the right way to approach it. We need to follow this way. So it's not that, I being a senior, I'm ignoring them. No, not at all. I'm most well. No, it's wrong. So with the so many things going parallelly together, so it is very important for everyone to keep themselves updated, keep up themselves aware of what is going in the internal and external world, and therefore it is always help them to build up that knowledge base, and also help them in terms of advising the giving proper advice to your company and the management clients, and also your personal growth as well.
Yeah, absolutely. So you absolutely nailed it, Abhishek, when you said that it is very important for a lawyer to keep themselves updated, because the more you know, the more valuable you would be for your clients, for your companies. So that's how it is. And thank you so much, Abhishek. With this, we come to the end of this amazing session with you. We had so many things to learn about from
Thank
you,
you.
about from
I'm
your
also learning,
experiences.
so it is both side.
It is
Thank you
both
so
sides. It's
much.
a win-win situation for both of
Yeah,
us, and I'm,
yeah.
I'm sure it is going to be a great learning for all of our viewers as well. So if you like this chat with Mr. Abhishek Kanoy today, please like and share this video with your fellow colleagues and members and families, whomsoever may need this kind of information. And if you have more questions that you want to ask Mr. Kanoy, please comment them in the section below, and we will try, Mr. Abhishek Kanoy, to answer them for you. With that, Abhishek, we come to the end of this session. Thank you so much for sharing such
Thank
great
you.
insights with us. It was a pleasure talking to you, and we would love to have
Likewise.
you. We would love to have a quick chat with you once again in the future on some other trending topics in the legal industry. For
Absolutely.
now, Vinay signing off for Lex Talk World. Thank you so much.